Good morning. Um, it's good to get back out here on the field. It takes a little bit of sting away of losing a great friend, a great coach, good man. Um, Unfortunately, I've been through this about 8 years ago when I lost my wife. So we're hoping that this is the last time. But Tony was a very good friend of mine, excellent football coach, a mentor for me to be able to go in and talk to him about things in the office. He was always here very, very early in the morning, as I usually am, and we were able to sit down and talk about not just football, talk about life, talk about kids and things like that. So it'll be hard for a few days, but we'll get through it and we'll get back to work and do the things that we do, and that's what he'd want us to do. So, questions? Some, I have lots of sounding boards. I need them. But yeah, Tony was, especially with the offense, he was a guy that I could go in and talk to a lot of times and talk about game plans and things like that. And because we've been together for quite a while, so we had quite a relationship. His wife Jeanette is, and I told her the other day, she reminds me a lot of my wife. She's the sweetest lady ever. But sorry.
Like kind of described him as an intense coach, but with the kind of soft side behind it. What did you know to see of him as just a person that maybe we didn't get to see as often?
Yeah, he was always grumpy. He was not like me. He probably the only grumpier person in the building than I was, but he really cared about his players. Uh, I've sat in with him in offensive line rooms a lot, and he had a way of poking the stick at the guys and then put his arm around them.
Yeah, how would you describe his relationship with his players? You said him offensive lineman. You said he was like a father figure. Was like a father figure. Was he like that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, he was, he always had a player in his office talking to him about not just football, but they were always in there. And, I think you probably saw by the comments from his former players and things like that when this all happened that, how much they cared for him. Well, Tony was a guy that he was very confident in his ways. He believed in doing things a certain way, and that's why I love to come out here watching these guys work so hard. He would grind them. He was tough on them. He, he had more sayings probably than any coach I've ever been around, but it was every day he had a different saying, and so that was fun. But he was exactly what I was looking for in an offensive line coach when I hired him, because he had that toughness and the mentality that we were trying to develop with the offensive line. Oh, he had all kinds of them. We'd talk about a play, and he said it's a horse of peas. Instead of saying it's one or the other, it'd be horse of peas. He had the Italian background in him and East Coast. Yeah, it's a fine line, guys. I know when the vets come in and we all go to the funeral. It'll be a tough day, but we're professionals, and this is what we get paid to do. We go out here and play, and Tony would, if Tony was here, he would tell us, you got to get out there and get to work. That was Tony. Tony was going to be a guy that never going to take a day off. He's going to come in here and grind. And that's what he would tell us to do. We got to go grind. We got to get better. We got to improve on where we're at each and every day. Yeah, I think a little bit of both. We're obviously going to talk about it, and I've gotten a couple texts from a couple of the players, and basically I told them, that we're gonna get through this together. That's how we do things here, and that we're going to continue to fight and try to get better. That's what he'd want us to do, and so I think we'll handle it that way.
He sounds an awful lot like you. You described him. Do you see that, or you guys getting brothers in that?
Yeah, we're both grumpy. I don't know. He was a good football coach, good man. You know, loved his grandkids, his kids. So uh, yeah, we were all really fortunate to get a chance to be around him, everybody, all the players, and unfortunately, the time came too short. There's every part of him was Parcells. Yeah, I mean, half the sayings were, he'd come in and say, "Hey, the old man, he come in and told me this, and or he called me this morning. If you talk to the old man lately, stuff like that." So, yeah, I mean, you know, you t- you know, they take on the personality a lot of times of the assistant coach, and the assistant coach is with them so much more than I am. I'm able to get this group or that group, but yeah, I mean they spend so much time together. They text each other. They communicate in the meetings and after practice and in the cafeteria and all those places. So the trainers deal with everybody. The strength coach deals with everybody, and the assistant coaches deal with their group pretty much. And so that's why having great assistant coaches it's so important. Yeah, there was one time, he comes in early in the morning and he walked by one of the coaches one morning, head down, and walked by him and didn't say anything. And one of the coaches came up and he said, "What's wrong with him? He's not going to disrespect." I said, "That's just Tony. Relax. It's no big deal. That's Tony." Um, but when you get to know him, we were playing in Rick's golf tournament one time, and his house was in Bear Path, as you all probably know by now. Um, and we get to the whatever hole he was on, and he'd have a big cooler out there with beer and wine. He gave me a bottle of wine so we could play the rest of the course. And that's Tony. He was a genuine person that um, cared an awful lot about a lot of people. I don't know. I'm still working through the process, and quite honestly, I don't think today's the day to worry about any of that stuff. You know, there's such a fine line. You're trying to let you know him rest in peace and his family, handle through the arrangements and all those things, and yet we have a football season coming up, and we have to get to work on things we have to do. So when I can, I'm working through the process, and when we know something, I'll let you know. But I have not decided what I'm going to do yet.
Who are some of the people around the crowd?
I'm not going to talk about it today. Say it one more time, Dawn. Yeah, well, I kind of tried to be like Tony today and kind of gig him a little bit, like Elfline was out there and giving him a hard time, and kind of that's how Tony was. So, um, yeah, not really. I'm going to be myself too.
Do you take care of himself?
Yeah, he said, when we left for the break, he said this is the best health he's been. He felt like he's been in. He was walking all the time. He was, um, you know, enjoying himself. I know his daughter just got married a couple weeks ago in Dallas, and obviously was down there. So, you know, I'm not a doctor, so I won't get into any of that. See how good I am?
Then just football question, how long do you expect
Till he gets healthy and the doctors say he can go. He's getting better every day. I don't, you know, shouldn't be too long.